Hello. This is our 8th week here in the Alignment Amplifier group, and this week we are going to be chatting about consistency and connection to the universal food plan. So kind of like the bigger picture than ourselves in connection to our foods and what we eat. And this week is the connection to the crown chakra. And this is the piece that brings us to this, higher states of consciousness or awareness within the bigger picture than ourselves pieces. So the crown chakra gives us access to higher states of consciousness as we open to what is beyond our personal preoccupations and visions. The function of this chakra is driven by consciousness and gets us in touch with the universal. So thus far, we've been talking about our own personal food plans, how much protein should we get, how much water should we drink, any potential strategies that we can use to, eat better on the weekend, those kinds of things. And today we're going to talk about what it looks like to care about our food in connection to the environment, in connection to our finances and our budget, and how it impacts others as well. So in this discussion, we will talk about the value of commitment and consistency to your food and nutrition efforts. Equally, we're going to discuss the importance of checking in with yourself to gauge the effectiveness of your food plan within your body and your mind, essentially checking in with your relationship to food and feelings about it. And lastly, we'll talk about the food and nutrition conversations that, again, are bigger than ourselves and connect to the universe and environmental sustainability. I like this quote a lot. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. And in my experience with food and nutrition practices, this is so true, right? Many times when we think about food and nutrition related things in connection to our goals, we have short-term focuses in mind. And while there is value to that, potentially, we also want to think about what does this look like in the long term, and how can we create habits or kind of protocols within our life that we can continue to use basically forever, with, again, the audits that come into play every once in a while, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. And it really is this long-term approach that tends to be most effective. When we have the shorter term focuses in mind, again, they can be valuable, but we sometimes put endpoints on that and think, in 50 days, I'll be able to eat sugar again, or that kind of mindset, which can be limiting to, again, that bigger picture. Although you might be effective for those 50 days, what happens next, right? And that's where the building of habits comes into play. And again, the value of consistency. Okay, so mindset and consistency. Throughout this whole process and in many processes of your life, it's critical to focus on you and your progressions. So really anything food related, nutrition related, your goals, they should all focus on you and where you're at, right? Comparisons can absolutely get the best of us, and we want to be careful with that, right? If you're comparing calorie intake to somebody else, how much protein you eat to somebody else, how many workouts you get to somebody else, how much weight you can lift to somebody else, that can take away from your own progress and your own successes, right? Because we can say, that's the heaviest weight I've ever lifted, and then somebody else lifts a little heavier next to you, and you can feel bad about your own accomplishment, which can get tricky, right? And can derail our progress. So focusing on you, super important. Focus on being the best you and moving at your pace. Work with what you have from your starting point and doing what's best for you and your overall health, right? And the doing what's best for you piece, that's where habits also come into play, right? Habits might not look the same from person to person, but it all has to work within each of our individual lifestyles. Confidence in yourself, your path, and your results is also important. Consistency in your process is key, and that's kind of what we've been talking about thus far. Sticking with manageable, achievable bites for you helps with this. For example, sticking to your food plan, which aims to include enough water, protein, fruits, vegetables, some fitness, and the occasional treat, consistently over time will pay dividends in health and longevity. So focusing on the things you want to include, and hopefully they included some of those things that I just mentioned, as opposed to pieces we're trying to remove, or again, comparing to somebody else's food plan. The consistency in your process is key. Mindset and consistency. So more fake it till you make it with a little winky face. And I mean this, but in a way that is maybe kinder than fake it, right? Continue using those identity creating mantras until you believe them to be true. Say them to yourselves and write them out daily. So this mindset of you're capable, you can do it, you are the person who accomplishes that goal. When we say these things to ourselves, even if we don't 100% fully believe them just yet, they are helping form our mindset around what we're working on, and also helping us stay consistent with the process. This is true on all things, right? Not just food related pieces. So keep that in mind. And if you start to doubt or question or feel not so great about your progress, there are some options, right? One is to sit with what you're experiencing. Sit with the feelings that are coming up for you. For example, if you have a nervous energy in your belly, you can close your eyes and really focus on that feeling, right? Turn inward for a few minutes. And there's nothing to change or adjust, just sit with it. The feeling might disappear, it might migrate somewhere else in their body, that's okay, just be with it. And after giving it some time, I want you to think about if there are other times in your life that you may have felt the same physical feeling. What did you need to hear at that time? Excuse me, and this might be critical to help create a new mantra for yourself to use it moving forward. Equally, when we do tune into these feelings in our physical bodies, they can be indicating stuff to us, right? If we're feeling super nervous, is it because you are choosing not to eat a sugary treat that day, and for whatever reason, that restriction is making you nervous? Okay, great noticing. So now what can we do? Is it finding a substitute snack that's potentially healthier? Is it including that snack with a managed amount that will allow you to feel less nervous about it? Right? When we tune into like how our literal body is feeling and where those energy systems are calling to us, we can make choices that are best for us. Auditing your plan. Occasionally, you may want to take time to audit your plan and gauge the effectiveness of your food plan within your body and mind, essentially checking in with your relationship to food and feelings about it. And that strategy that I just realized can be part of this, or that I just mentioned, can be part of this auditing. To do so, again, sit quietly in silent reflection, close your eyes, check in with your physical self. How are you literally feeling? Are you experiencing resistance in your body? Are you feeling lightness? Are you feeling excited? Anything that comes up, try to pinpoint that. Once you pinpoint the area of feeling, and I'm talking about now like the literal feeling in your body, I want you to try to focus on it and let it tell you how to adjust, right? And again, that example I just used about the nervous feeling when you're trying to not eat something, right? Can we use that to help us make decisions to move forward with? This practice takes practice, right? Give yourself some time with it and listen to what your body tells you and adjust accordingly. All right, now from here, I would like us to also, take some time to think about how our food plan impacts the greater good, right? Food sustainability and environmental awareness in the bigger picture. Sustainable agriculture ensures that we can produce safe, high quality food for everyone for a long time. And there are certain areas that are not quite in that realm yet. And so we can take action to try to help that. Luckily, what helps the planet usually also helps us, our bodies, and our health. Consider some of the following pieces for yourself. Are you willing to spend a little more to ensure you're eating sustainably produced products, or products with better working conditions for the people who produce it or process it, or in fact, the animals that are involved in the process, depending on what we're talking about? Are you willing to look closer at your buying or eating habits to see where you might be able to make improvements for the sake of the environment and the future? If yes, let's talk about some ways that we can do that. And the good news here is that little changes go a long way. To help the environment and speak to sustainability, you can check in on your own sources of food waste. Research suggests that in the United States, we waste between 25 to 50% of all food. That is a lot, right? What do you waste? Can you buy less or be more thoughtful with your shopping list, right? And to this point, if it's possible to kind of plan out the foods that you're going to have for the next week or a couple days or however frequently you shop, this can help prevent lots of food waste. Once we have a plan, we buy just those things, and then that's what we eat. We tend to run into the trouble of food waste when we just buy things that catch our attention and don't really have a plan for them, and then they don't get eaten because they weren't part of a plan, right? And so the more thoughtful you can be with your shopping list, the less waste I imagine you'll have. Examine reusable opportunities. Can you cook wilted fruits or veggies so that you can still eat them? Can you donate leftovers to food banks? Can you explore composting, right? Instead of throwing food away, can you put it back into the environment to serve a purpose and thus, continue reusing? Shop strategically. Again, make a list and stick to it so you know you'll use what you buy. And this helps with finances too. When we're not buying things that are maybe excessive to what we need, that helps us to save some money. And notice if you're relying on single-use plastics, right? Bring your own bags to the store to pack up your groceries if that's possible. Purchase reusable baggies like, sandwich bag type things. And a link to my favorite brand of those is on my website in the products I love section. So if you are in the market for a reusable baggie of sorts, check there. Continuing, you can also support local farms or farmers markets to help with sustainability and environmental practices. Typically, these types of places are more in tune with the environmental safety pieces. Buy organic where you can, right? Organic farming avoids the use of synthetically produced fertilizers. Excuse me. Growth regulators, genetic engineering, etc. Organic foods tend to be higher in nutrients and lower in pesticides, right? So that speaks to a better quality of the literal environment that these plants are growing in, and also the better quality for yourself. What's the impact of that food on the food chain of specific products? Plants typically use less water or fossil fuels and create fewer waste products than animals do. Is it possible to have fewer meat or animal products within your day, within your meals? This can impact that food chain process. All right. Debatably, this budget piece is not necessarily that universal good. However, if it can help us individually within the big picture, that's why I'm sharing it. Okay, so while it's true that higher quality foods do tend to be more expensive than their lower quality counterparts, eating well doesn't necessarily have to break the bank, right? And we're talking about some kind of tips here that you can be mindful of expenses while still eating healthy foods. You can plan your foods in advance. If you know what you're going to be eating, you can make a list of the exact foods that you need so that you don't buy anything that goes to waste. And so not only does this speak to the budget, but it also speaks to that sustainability piece that we talked about a couple minutes ago. Excuse me, buy in bulk. Buying meats and proteins in bigger sizes tends to be cheaper. And you can also freeze what you don't use and then cook that in the future. Buying bigger portions and saving some can also allow you to have food on hand should you ever be in a pinch in terms of not being able to go to the food store or stuff like that. Cook in bulk and save leftovers for future meals. Pack them for lunches, those kinds of things. Being mindful of expenses continued. Eat out less. Not only does cooking at home ensure that you know the ingredients of everything you're eating, but eating out typically tends to be more expensive. A recent study showed that the fewer meals you eat out at restaurants, the healthier that individuals tend to be, almost like a sliding scale on that front. And so not only is it more expensive, but also there's health factors involved, right? When we cook at home, we have more control over, how much oil we're using to saute something, or how much, butter goes on top of a, piece of steak, or whatever those things are, right? Whereas in restaurants, those things are potentially less regulated, and thus adding to your intake without you even realizing it. Equally, for example, a salad at home costs approximately $2.50 to $5, whereas a salad from a restaurant or a chain can be as much as $10 to $18, and probably even more depending on what we're talking about. With this being said, pack your lunch and snacks. If you're someone who travels to work, bringing your food can be not only helpful for your budget, not only helpful for the environment, but also allow you to stick to your food plan in an easier manner. Avoid shopping when you're hungry, right? This is a old saying that I've heard forever, but it's real. We make different decisions when we have food on the mind than if we feel satiated. So if it's possible to kind of prepare yourself for the food shopping experience by having a snack or a meal beforehand, I imagine you'll make more logical choices and thus potentially save some money. Buy unprocessed foods, or buy foods in their simplest form, right? For example, a block of cheese is cheaper than shredded cheese that's already shredded in a bag or a container. Oats are cheaper than boxed oatmeals. A bag of rice is cheaper than the smaller boxed flavored versions, right? So these are things that will add up over time if we can buy different versions of same products. Shop for produce that's in season. Prices on foods change based on how readily available those products are, seasonally speaking. So pay attention to seasonal fruits and veggies while you're shopping, and that can help you save money as well. Okay, so with all this being said, let's reflect and talk about next steps. How consistent are you in your efforts, right? As harsh as this might sound, some of us think we're being more consistent or more conscientious for choices than we actually are. And so you can check in on your habits, right? And if you do this, really check in on your habits, right? So if you believe you're getting X number of exercise minutes per week, keep track of that and make sure that you're in the realm that you're looking to be in. If you are aiming to eat a certain number of fruits and veggies each day, keep track of them for a short period of time and make sure that you're in the realm that you would like to be in. Same with water, same with protein, same potentially with overall calories, and certainly seek guidance on that, because there's more to it than that. And with this being said, if you want to talk to me about your experiences, I'd be happy to have a chat about areas where you can focus, or checking in on certain pieces. You can literally check in. How do you feel about your efforts? And I would totally recommend using some of those strategies that we mentioned at the beginning. So, sitting, closing your eyes, and focusing on your literal physical feelings. And then also checking in with your, mental and emotional state. How is this food plan fitting within your life? How is your shopping plan and schedule fitting within your life? How does it feel to make the efforts that you're making? How does it feel to see the results that you're seeing or not seeing, right? And then that can help us make adjustments as well. How does your food plan impact things bigger than yourself? So if you consider some of the environmental and sustainability pieces that we just talked about, maybe we're even looking at budget pieces. Certainly, I know that impacts you, but outside of actual food, are there things that you can bring into place that can speak to, the greater good, or saving yourself some money? What efforts do you already make on behalf of the environment, or on food sustainability, or on your budget? What pieces, if any, would you like to add as areas of focus on behalf of the greater good? And with this being said, as I mentioned before, little things here can go a long way. So I don't want you to feel like, you can never eat meat again, and you can, never buy something that comes in a plastic container, et cetera, et cetera. That's not true. However, if we can be mindful of areas that we can make different choices that can still fit within our plan and what's good for us, that's the sweet spot. Excuse me. And where else do you need support? If areas come up that would be beneficial to talk to someone about, I would love to be that person for you. Please reach out. Nutrition for Life Project on Instagram. Send me an email, nutritionforlifeproject@gmail.com. Anything along those lines, even through my website contacts. If you need help, I would love to have a conversation about areas that you have questions, goals that you have set for yourself, your experiences with any of these pieces environmentally, budget-wise, how you feel about your plan, how to audit it, or really anything that you're working on in terms of food or nutrition. Even if I'm not your person, make sure that you get the support that you need with these areas. Struggling in silence and believing you're doing something that's helpful, but it may actually not be, is a really tough spot to be in, and we can get down at ourselves in those types of situations. So look out for your own self and well-being too, as you're going through this whole process, right? Thank you for watching this. And again, please reach out if you need anything. And this whole 8-week process has been really fun. And so I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video and any others that you may have been a part of. And yeah, thanks.